All right, so this is an image by Nancy, and we're at ISO 2500, so a really high ISO. Now, if we get in here and we try to take a look at that shadowed area to see if there's digital noise, we're definitely seeing that digital noise. It's always in these midtones here. So I would pull back on your ISO. And in order to do that, you're going to have a longer shutter speed. And I'm guessing you had to have a faster shutter speed because you have a little animal. Like you can sit still for 1/20th of a second, but your rat is not going to be able to sit there for 1/20th of a second. So this is one of those instances where you want a lower ISO, but without adding more light, you probably can't get a lower ISO. So this is one where we just accept that you have that higher ISO in order to have a sharp image. The colors of the image are really muted, right? We don't have a lot of color going on. We have your skin tone that really stands out. We have the color of your hair, the green of your hair, and whatever is written on your shirt here. So we have a few things that are colorful, but overall it's pretty neutral color-wise. The light's coming in from the side. It's lighting up the back of your shirt and illuminating your face in a pretty pleasing manner. It's harder light coming across. You can definitely see there's a harshness to it, but it's still really pleasing light. Creates a nice catch light in your eye also. So this image you said was just kind of how you normally look. Like you don't put on a ton of makeup or spend a lot of time on your hair. This is just a very natural look. And that comes across. It just has a really comfortable feel to it. You in like a long sleeve t-shirt, sitting with your little pet rat, I think just creates this sweet picture that you're inviting us into this part of your life. There's part of me that wants to see this in a more like domestic situation where we're seeing you sit on the couch or we're seeing you in your room or whatever. But there's also something about the formality of this and having the plain background that I think is working well to serve more as like a proper portraiture. This image is by Christian. You're at ISO 400, 21 millimeters, f11 at 1/80th of a second. And Christian, I think this is your most successful, like without a doubt, successful image of the semester. So you're outdoors in this eucalyptus grove. We have the strength of the trees, the tall trees all around you. There's ivy on the ground and ivy moving up the trees. So it's kind of this like mystical sort of place that you're in. And there's all these really natural shapes, the lines and the shapes of the leaves and the repetition that's moving us back into the image. And then we find you and you're almost like where's Waldo wearing this striped shirt that really stands out and is like a juxtaposition to all those natural shapes that are around you. And then the fact that you're kind of cowered down almost, you're hiding your face from us, you are in a very protective um, stance where you're holding on to your legs, feeling small, very small compared to the strength of these trees. That juxtaposition really makes you stand out and just makes me question what's going on in this situation. And I think those are oftentimes the most successful images is when instead of answering questions or telling us something with your imagery, you make us think about what's happening and what's going on, and that's what you've created here. The light in the background is a little bit of a distraction because it pulls me back into this area and less on you, but it also has like the hope, the brightness in the background, and then you are in this shaded area. So in one sense it works, in another sense I find it a little bit of a distraction. But beautiful overall image. I think you have a real a new sense of or I have a new sense of what you're capable of communicating with your imagery here. And then this is Siyue's image. You're at ISO 100, 35 millimeters, f8 at 10 seconds, so a really long exposure. And you had said that you were doing light painting and you were using your iPhone for this. So when I think of light painting, I think of you drawing something with your light source, right? You outlining something with your light source. Or another way of light painting is that you would be like painting, so the light would not be in the image, but you would be have the light off camera, and then you'd be highlighting areas that you wanted in a dark scene to stand out. So you'd be painting with the light onto the scene instead of the light making the scene. So two different ways of light painting. And what we're seeing here doesn't really stand to either of those. So I'm not sure how you are light painting in this. What I see this as is just a self-portrait with a lot of movement in it, which if we're thinking about the times and what everyone's thinking right now, I think this like confused, jumbled self-portrait makes sense because I feel like a lot of us feel that we're in this kind of twilight zone right now. So this image I think works, but does it work for showing light painting? I'm not seeing that. And I also would pull back on the highlights. You can tell that the highlights are really hot here and you're losing detail in a lot of the image. So I think pulling back on those highlights would work better. Then we'd be able to see all of the detail in the image. And even if the detail isn't like a texture that we can hold on to and understand what it is, it would still be a texture that would give volume to that space.